Hello world, hello Australia, it's Jamie Burke here, the Crypto Koala. Now today guys, I've got Kyn. Now he's the Chief Business Development Officer of Tomochain. Great to have you on the day, Kyn.
Oh, I'm excited to be here, thank you so much for inviting me on. I can't wait to start talking more about Tomochain, the industry, and it's just an exciting time to be here.
Yeah, definitely, Kyn. With all what's going on at the moment, it's definitely an interesting time for crypto. Definitely interesting time for projects with the current situation with COVID-19. So I'd just like to start off with, Kyn, is whereabouts you currently based at the moment?
Sure. So typically I'm based in Hanoi, Vietnam, which is where our main office is. But currently I'm in New Delhi, India, which is where another one of my apartments are. I came here because my wife is here, and for a period of time I was here, but then I decided I couldn't go back to Hanoi because the Indian government closed re-entry of my particular visa type back into India. So if I left, I couldn't come back. So I stayed for a little longer working remotely, and then as of a couple of days ago, the Indian government put into effect a 21-day lockdown. So that means no Ubers, no public transportation, no commercial flights. Can't really be out on the road. Right now, basically just essential services are available. Hospitals, police, grocery stores, and pharmaceutical companies or pharmacies are open. So for now, I'm working from home, and will be for until kind of things ease up. I think when we talk about Tomochain specifically, Tomochain also has now decided to kind of operate more from a remote fashion. The nice thing about that, though, is that most of the work we do, pretty much all of it, is all handled through typical online tools like Slack, Telegram, and so what ends up happening is we don't really, hasn't really affected us, in terms of our ability to work together. And I think that's actually a really great thing because I wasn't sure how it would impact us. I thought that maybe development would slow down or something like that, but it's nothing like that. It's like everything's running pretty much as efficiently as possible. We have to put a few policies in place. Yeah. We have like morning and evening check-ins, but other than that, it's been okay. I just hope that things kind of calm down and so that we can kind of get back into the office together. But for now, it's an interesting time where you're forced to operate in an online fashion or a remote fashion and see kind of how that goes. Perhaps accelerating future ways of running businesses, much more quickly than we've seen today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the beauty of the crypto industry. You can sort of practice self-isolation while still working at home. And that's good to hear with Tomochain that your development is not being hindered, as that developers and core members of the team is able to still function, still collaborate. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. So
absolutely.
So
we actually have a very aggressive pipeline of products coming out in April into May, and it hasn't slowed down, which I'm just so happy about. I think this really, the crypto space in particular has always been very innovative. And, a number of companies in the space do actually have a number of remote workers. And so I think that though the market conditions may not be the best right now, but the fact is for those who actually have the ability to continue operating, I don't think it's really altered the way in which we work too much. We've always kind of been ahead of the curve as an industry because of that.
Yeah, for sure. You did mention that, none of your projects are hindered, which are coming out in April. But I just want to talk about recently you had a major release of your TomoP. So, and you went to public testing in February. So I know that's really big because whenever anyone mentions privacy, especially on Twitter, it lights up. So going into the privacy space is pretty important. So, tell us a bit about that, Kyn.
Sure, absolutely. So TomoP, which stands for Tomo Privacy, has been one of the key products or protocols, I should say, we've been really geared towards launching since I think probably spring of last year in 2019. We spent a lot of time in researching the right approach for it, and we wanted it to be more than just, you can send Tomo privately. It needed to be more than just that. Right now, what we ended up, for Tomochain, we're focusing on finance, DeFi, open finance. That's the space we want to operate in. And we want to make sure that all of our protocols and products that we create function well together synergetically, and they can be geared towards the open finance space. So privacy is one of the key parts of that. Right now on the public blockchain, unless it's a purely private blockchain, like a Monero or Zcash, the transactions are purely visible. Now, if you're wanting to do financial transactions, it's not easy to do on other public blockchains. We did not want to turn Tomochain to a private blockchain, just run private transactions, I should say. So what we did was we just developed the idea of TomoP, where you could selectively choose to send transactions privately. It's purely decentralized. And what I mean by that is when you're sending a private transaction, you typically have, on other blockchains, you typically have to have a third party which handles the gas fees. Otherwise, you'll know basically who is actually sending the transaction. So someone else handles the gas fees for you. The problem is it's usually a trusted party in some capacity. So it's not purely decentralized. In Tomochain, what we did was we have utilized one of our other protocols called TomoZ, zero friction, which allows you to send transactions in a way with tokens where the gas fee is paid by the token itself. So it already is the smart contract sitting there. And so we basically use TomoZ to utilize the gas fees. So the transactions are truly decentralized. They run at the same speed as the Tomochain blockchain, so 2 to 4 seconds to get a transaction done. It's incredibly cheap. And like, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just Tomo that you can send privately. We're going to be able to allow for the sending of all of our Tomochain tokens, any token that's launched on it. We're also going to be including wrapped tokens, so wrapped ETC, wrapped ETH, wrapped USDT stable coins, as well as, hey, for the fun of it, you can even do wrapped to Monero and send it faster than Monero can. just for the fun of it. Yeah. But even more than that, it's not just about sending tokens. If we're thinking about applications, financial applications, we want to make sure that when you build an application, you can integrate Tomochain and all of your customer data, the financial transactions they send or any transaction they send within your application can also be private. So this protocol, TomoP, is going to allow for any DApp or any app to be able to utilize TomoP within it so that you can actually build entirely new, as we've been talking about, kind of like a next generation version of PayPal that's using the Tomochain blockchain. Transactions will be fast and they'll be private. On top of that, we ensure that we are regulatory friendly in that there is an optional way for you to actually look into the transactions. If you issue a token on Tomochain or using the privacy protocol, you can open that up to regulatory bodies that may need to look into that. But other than that, it's optional. But other than that, it's entirely private. So this way what happens is you have compliance for any business that wants to use it. So I think that the combination of being able to send just our native token, Tomo, as well as other tokens issued on it, wrapped tokens, DApp privacy, all of these things are going to be pretty useful when we think about the future of finance. And we think of privacy not as a blockchain. It should be just a core feature. It is, it's not just a feature. It's basically, it is just another aspect of an existing public blockchain. So, and as time goes on, we'll be seeing other features which are currently pure blockchains coming in as, again, just a feature. And I think that's how it needs to be. You need to be modular with what your public blockchain can be. That includes within the enterprise space. Right now, what we're noticing in the enterprise space is that though we have systems built around like the Hyperledger or private blockchains, the movement is really more towards the public blockchain side. But the thing is, the features in the public blockchains are not quite set up just yet to handle everything enterprise wants. Privacy is going to be one of the big things. Whether you're doing, you're trying to do supply chain management, right? Only you would probably want to have access to that data, not everybody else, right? So you can think of it, you can see how TomoP kind of fits into multiple types of solutions. And so that's why I'm really excited about it. It's not just about sending a token privately. There's a lot more to it than that. So right now, yes, we are in testnet. And right now you can send our testnet Tomo privately. And we're going to be adding these other features that I mentioned over the coming months.
That's wonderful. When you hear DeFi and then you hear privacy, you combine that and you've got a powerful two ingredients there. Now, when I think of enterprise blockchains, especially the banking or healthcare sectors, even logistics, there's certain information they need to keep private. So just having privacy fundamentally in a blockchain, I think it's really important. And I think it's really good that, you guys are developing that. just for the front end user, for say the average person with a Tomo wallet, how easy is it for them to say, go over to incognito mode? Or is there a way to just quickly switch? Just within that wallet, you said you've got a diverse range of different cryptos where you can wrap different cryptos. So, you know, how easy is it for the average person with a Tomo wallet to switch to that privacy feature?
Sure. So what we're going to be doing is we want to make it as easy as possible. So right now the plan is within the Tomo wallet, you'll just have a single button, which will say incognito mode or privacy mode, or standard mode. So you click it and we'll have some kind of a visual cue, you know, maybe the screen will darken, something like that, just to kind of make sure that you know that you're in privacy mode. And so that way what happens is it does minimize, hopefully, that so that friction and in terms of trying to understand how to send it. You'll know what mode you're in, and then you can send it. In terms of the addresses, so you'll have two addresses. One is your current public wallet address, and then you'll have a second one, which is a privacy address. So the only thing you have to do is make sure that you're sending, when you're trying to send your Tomo or other tokens on Tomochain to another user, if you're in the privacy mode, then you use your privacy address. You can't make a mistake. I mean, as in if you try to send it to a public wallet address in Tomo wallet, we won't allow you to do it. So you're not going to make any mistakes in that sense. You'll know that you got to send it to a specific privacy address. And I think the other cool thing because of that, the privacy address aspect, is that you know, one of the big challenges when we think about exchanges wanting to list tokens right now, there has been question about, can we list private only blockchains? The nice thing about having this as a feature is it can enable exchanges to accept deposits and even withdrawals using this privacy feature. And you know, we have been talking with different exchanges. There is interest, you know, and I think that's great. You know, so that's an added benefit in terms of trying to add privacy to the you know, the behavior that you have on the existing blockchain right now in the existing industry. And down the road, you know, I can think of things like, you know, you can have private staking if you're thinking of just, you know, within crypto itself. You can do private staking if you want to. Why not? You could do decentralized exchanges which do purely private transactions. So again, it's sending it to a privacy address rather than sending it to your public wallet address. So you can be trading without anyone else knowing. Things like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, sometimes you want to be in a staking pool, and you're part of a massive staking pool, but sometimes that pool doesn't want anyone to know, you know, that they're staking a particular coin. Just think for examples like that. I just want to talk about the enterprise businesses. Is there any particular enterprise businesses that you can tell us that you're working with at the moment? Is there any top projects that Tomochain is working with at the moment?
Sure. So we have a number of enterprise-based pilots in the works. I can't reveal all of them, but I can tell at least one of them we've been public about, which is a company called Yukarpak, which is a Japanese used car business. They are in the top 10 in Japan. And what they're looking to do is do traceability. So understand the life cycle of the vehicle. And they're looking to commercialize that by working with other similar businesses in their space. And then to turn this into a commercial product, essentially. So we've completed phase 1 with them, and now we're looking to move to phase 2 out of 3 phases of development. So it's been successful so far, and we'll see how it goes. When it comes to doing enterprise-based work, it's has yet to be proven to be commercially viable. It doesn't bring a product to market. So everything is an experiment in the space. No matter what narrative you read, you know, whoever is supposedly using blockchain for enterprise, it's a lot of PR. And it is experimental. And with Japan, the thing is they're excited, but as always with Japan, it takes a lot longer. We were in development for over a year at this point in that phase 1 pilot that we did with Yukarpak, and we had to be completely quiet about it. But moving forward, I'm hoping that, you know, it won't take as long now that we've reached that first milestone. But even with the other clients, we're in that phase 1 part of it. So we have to wait until, you know, all the approvals are met, and, you know, they have to consider legal ramifications for using blockchain and all of that. So, but it's still a great place to experiment and work in, because down the road, we do think that enterprise will be big when it comes to looking into blockchain as a solution. But today, based on what we've seen and based on reports that are out there, it's still, again, it's a nice, fun thing to experiment with for them, but it's not a needed aspect of their business just yet. But hopefully down the road it will be.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys have been around for a good few years now, haven't you?
Yeah, so our founder, Long Vlong, he was actually the founder of NEM, NEM, which was at one time, I think in 2017, it was called the Japanese Ethereum. It was a top 10 project for a period of time in 2017. So Long has had a long experience in the crypto space. And so Tomochain is his second project. So the team behind Tomochain started developing this Tomochain blockchain at the end of 2017, launched the ICO in early 2018, and went into the public mainnet, into mainnet at the end of 2018, so December. So we've been mainnet now for over a year now. And because of that, it's, we've kind of shifted gears from doing just, let's do cross-marketing, let's do, partnerships that are more PR. And we entirely shifted over to everything that we do has to have meaning. If we're working with another blockchain, then we need to make sure that there's some integration or there's an ecosystem development that we're doing together. If we're working with any party, there has to be some technological aspect to it or some business component to it. And because of that, the way in which we operate, we've attracted a number of businesses themselves to utilize the Tomochain blockchain. And I think that that's the way that we have to operate now that we're in our second full year of operations after the mainnet launch. We can't think of ourselves as, just doing pure co-marketing partnerships anymore. It has to be something meaningful with everything we do.
Definitely, and I guess that's really important that you've got actually credible partnerships that is actually going to be a benefit to both your clients basically, and the people that actually, So I just want to go in a little bit more about the technical side of things. Is how Tomochain actually achieve consensus. I know it's something that you've covered in the past, but I just want to really try and do a bit of a comparison, because we know the Ethereum where they're trying to go to proof of stake. They don't want to go into Ethereum 2.0. But I just wanted to try and see how you guys, achieve your consensus.
Absolutely. So the Tomochain the Tomochain blockchain ecosystem is governed by proof of stake voting as its consensus. What that is essentially we have 150 masternodes on the Tomochain network, and that secure the network. And what happens is that anytime a block is created, one of the blockchains, one of the masternodes is selected. And then once it creates a block, what we do is we use a form of double validation. So we then randomly choose another masternode out of the 150 to validate the transaction or the block that was created by the first masternode. So what this does is it prevents collusion, because if you want to collude, then you will, on other blockchains, what often happens is that you'll have one masternode, one node which creates the block, and the one right next to it in sequential order will validate it. And that could lead to collusion. In our case, it's very hard to do it unless you have a significant percentage, you own a significant percentage of the master ecosystem. And for us, you need to do in quote unquote attack on the Tomochain ecosystem, you have to have at least, it has to be a 75% attack, not a 51% attack to actually be able to alter. And so as I mentioned earlier, we have a 2-second block time, and finality for us is 4 seconds. Basically, once the block is created, the block is then validated by another masternode randomly, and then it's broadcast at the same time to all the other masternodes. So we reach finality in roughly 4 seconds, 4, 5, 6 seconds, something around that. So it's incredibly fast. So it'd be very challenging for someone to do an attack and then try to completely fork off the entire network. That would just be incredibly challenging to do. So this is kind of how we reach our consensus basically and how it works. And it's incredibly fast and it's been very secure so far. We haven't had any issues. We had the first couple of months into mainnet, we had some issues with the speed. There were some inefficiencies in the code base, so they fixed it, and that's been running incredibly smoothly for the last 1 year, I guess, at this point. I myself run masternodes as well on the Tomochain network, so I have to be intimately involved in how things are running So it's been good for me. It's been really good for me. Only a handful of times have I had to kind of concern myself with my own master nodes. Beyond that, yeah, the system is proven to be quite scalable. We've had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of transactions happen on the blockchain over the last just couple of days, and you know, actual meaningful transactions. No slowdown, no scalability issues. Gas fees remain the same. So all the issues we've been facing with, let's say, Ethereum in 2017, and even over the last few weeks when we were having the whole issue with the market, those same issues with the same number of transactions on Ethereum that were clogging the system, if they had all moved to Tomochain, there would have been no problems at all. We would have plenty of leeway even beyond that. That
was actually pretty scary. And I mean, I into DeFi and I have a MakerDAO, which and I've got a CDP. And
oof, yeah.
Yeah, so you know, I was getting really worried when Ethereum price started crashing, and I started moving money around to top up my CDP.
Yeah.
And the transaction times were really slow. They were getting congested. No one was panicking. That price was dropping very quickly, and luckily enough, you know, it just was above my liquidation point. But it goes to show, you know, when the pressure's on, it's really under the strain of Ethereum at the moment. Sometimes when you really, and I was paying high gas prices because I was panicking. I was paying the premium gas prices. So I guess, you know, having a blockchain that's able to achieve consensus with a good throughput underload is pretty important. And that's really good that Tomochain is, you know, you've sort of had that experience to a degree. It's been underload and you've got that throughput. So something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, good.
Yeah, no, you mentioned that, you know, it's governed by master nodes. I just want to know how many master nodes there actually is.
Sure. We have 150. So you can have as many master nodes as you want on the Tomochain network, but only 150 actually secure the blockchain. So that's the limit. The rest of them, if we have, you know, number 151, number 152, they will sit in a state called proposed, meaning if anything happens to the top 150, they can then come in and take over. And the way in which you know, we designate which is a master that validates the blockchain or validates blocks, creates blocks, validates blocks, is by the voting. So essentially, every master node, to launch a master node, you need to have at least 50,000 Tomo, which you will deposit. Then beyond that, you can stake more Tomo right on top of it. The top 150 highest voted nodes become master nodes. That's how it essentially works. So no one master node has any more say on our blockchain than any other. So it doesn't matter if you have the most voted master, you have the most voted master node or not. If you're in the top 150, you hold equal say. And so right now, if you look at I think right now, if on Tomochain, you need to have roughly almost about 200,000 total Tomo voted in order to become a master node. Otherwise, you'll be sitting in proposed. So the way in which you do it, you can put your own Tomo down, but by and large, we work with the community. So the community looks at the master node operators and they decide which master node operators are, say, providing, you know, to the community, you know, doing things to benefit the community. In addition to that, which of the master nodes are most stable? Sometimes a master node is not stable, meaning the system that they're using might go out of whack, and they may end up becoming what we call slashed, meaning that they're not actually producing blocks, meaning they're not even providing rewards as a result of it. So we actually track the percentages of time that a master node has been slashed. In this case, you know, its general uptime, its performance, and then that way users can also determine which master node they want to vote for. So the idea is that if a master node is behaving performing poorly, or the master node operator is not performing, it's not operating in a way that's beneficial to the Tomochain ecosystem, to the community, then the users can unvote on those particular master nodes and only support those which make the most sense for them. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I'm just trying to get an understanding of that you have the community that can vote the master nodes in. I'm just trying to establish whether or not you guys would be considered as a permission blockchain. But what it sounds, yeah.
So Tomochain is a purely permissionless blockchain, and so when we say unpermissioned, I should say, the idea is that we don't prevent anyone from launching a master node. Anyone can launch a master node. And on top of that, we don't have any concentration problems. Like we don't have like one party or one consortium controlling like 60% of the master node network either. So that means that there's no concentration right now. And at the same time, yeah, anyone can launch a master node. We don't control that at all. So you can easily launch a node, and then if you deposit 50,000 Tomo, you become a master candidate. And then if you get more votes or you put more Tomo on yourself, vote for yourself, you become master node. So we entirely leave it in the hands of the community, and for any businesses that want to operate a master node as well, which we have a number of. We have Neo Global Capital, which runs a master node, HashQuark, Zangle, CoinGecko, KuCoin, and we have others coming in the pipeline as well that are wanting to also run master nodes. So we have a mix of pure community and businesses that are invested in our master node ecosystem.
That's really interesting. You've got that mixture of businesses, and you've also got community, and that is a permissionless. So that's really interesting. So Tomochain, you mentioned you've got some developments coming up in April, and you mentioned you've been developing for a while. So what's been the biggest challenge so far in that time, over this since you sort of had your ICO launch, and what has been the biggest challenge for the Tomochain team?
Sure. So I think the most important thing is what is it that Tomochain is trying to what is it trying to actually do in the industry that will actually bring value to the blockchain space and to the wider global community of people basically who are looking to move out of the existing, say, banking system, or who need to have a banking system but they don't have access to it. So we've always, from the beginning, we focused on being scalable and focusing on open finance. And as we did that, the most important thing in this space is because it changes so fast, you have to be able to adjust your strategy and your tactics as well, depending on the market situation, depending on new data coming in. So for us, one of the things that we do is, I have weekly meetings with Long, our CEO, to discuss strategy and to talk about what products we're launching or we're developing, what will be launched. Are we still on the right track, or do we need to adjust our approach? And we have had to adjust our strategy and our tactics as well so many times over the last 9-10 months since I've been with Tomochain. Not major changes, but tweaks based on data we're seeing. So, for example, back in July, of last year, we started noticing that China was taking a significant interest in Vietnam, and other countries were too, because Southeast Asia was considered to be, and even today it is, but even at that time it was identified as the next hot market. So we ended up seeing that we had a number of potential partnerships coming in. So we ended up having to decide how we're going to how we can kind of take advantage of the situation, not in a bad way, but how can we actually turn it into being beneficial for us? And so we started to design and develop our strategy to say, okay, let's see if we can also target China. What can we do there? Korea started getting interest. So we said, okay, how can we design and develop our products and our partnerships based off of being successful in these markets as well? So that took a little bit of readjustment for us, because we were initially just targeting, say, Vietnam and the Western market. But now we started seeing Asia was becoming a central component to probably the potential for Tomochain moving forward. We ended up seeing that geographical interest was very important. Whereas we normally talk about, say, what's better, Ethereum or Tomochain or the other blockchains, right? From a technological perspective. But when you think of it from a business perspective, when you think of, say, let's talk about, say, Uber. Uber was huge, is huge in the United States, and started expanding across the globe. But across the globe, you also see that there were competitors in that space too that came up, local competitors that knew the market really well. Uber launched their services in multiple countries, including Vietnam. Uber had to sell their Uber operations to Grab because they couldn't handle it in Vietnam. Uber sold their Uber Eats business in India because they couldn't handle it there, even though they understood it in the US market, right? In the same way, when you look at blockchain, I don't think it's one will beat them all. and right now especially, when the market is just starting up, and it is, it's only 10 years in, we have to look at geographic specialization as well. Regionally, Tomochain is the largest public blockchain in Southeast Asia. And we started to really see that in the summer of last year, when we started getting interest from other countries wanting to come into the Vietnam market. So we adjusted the way in which we operated and realizing that, okay, a regional play actually makes sense. We are a global blockchain, but to build, perhaps more regional focus makes sense in terms of building our financial applications and our protocols to be geared around this, around the Southeast Asia markets. And that ended up becoming, I think, the right tactic to use, because we built up a number of very strong relationships and businesses now, which are from Southeast Asia, building right on top of Tomochain and from China as well right now. And so I think the core challenge, coming back to it, has really been about strategy. How do we build our business? And it is a business at the end of the day for us. The public blockchain is decentralized and can continue to operate. We want to actually, down the road, we want to distance ourselves from being the core builders of the blockchain and of all the products and protocols around it, and allow for a decentralized manner, allowing the community to continue building. For the time being, obviously, we're the primary source of source code development and of the strategy for how to make Tomochain as a public blockchain successful. Down the road, we want to separate ourselves from that and be a contributor rather than being the core developer of it. So how do we get there? What are we seeing in the market? How do we adjust our tactic and our strategy, primarily our strategy, and to accompany that in the shortest time span possible, while at the same time taking into account the way the market's moving, right? Like right now, we were born in a bear market, Tomochain was. And so we had to operate in that capacity. And 2019 seemed like things were kind of getting better for everyone overall. Coronavirus hit, and we're like, okay, now we have to operate kind of again in that same capacity. So how do we continue building, maintaining our expenditure budgets in a way that will keep us going for the next few years, while keeping track of, are our products still, are the products we're building going to be beneficial considering the current market conditions over the next 6 months, 1 year? Where do we have to adjust, and in what capacity? So I know I repeated myself a few times there, but hopefully that made sense.
For what I got from the entire theme, that is adaptability. So Tomochain is really good at trying to be adaptive to the situation, market conditions, and even, you know, trying to be specific geographically to one area instead of that global sort of approach. You've really sort of established yourselves in that region, and that seems to be, you know, your primary focus, trying to put all your resources into one area. And so, yeah, no, it sounds really interesting.
No,
So,
well done. A good summary.
Yeah.
I'm glad it made sense.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to now go on to this year now, you know, for the rest of the year. And of course, with coronavirus, your team is now adapting and changing, as with a lot of projects in the crypto industry. But, you know, you mentioned that you've got your project still coming out potentially in April. So could you tell us about, you know, what's on the horizon?
Sure, absolutely, be happy to. So Q2 is going to be pretty big for us. We're going to be launching, so we talked about TomoP, the privacy protocol, which is in testnet. We also have TomoX, which stands for exchange, which is a decentralized exchange protocol, which is currently in testnet and will be heading into mainnet in Q2, probably at the end of April or beginning of May. What TomoX is essentially is, it's a layer 1 protocol on Tomochain, meaning that our master nodes are actually, it's integrated within our master node network, our framework. And what it allows for is anyone to launch their own decentralized exchange right on top of Tomochain. And so everything is secured by the master nodes. We provide backend and front-end scripts, so that way an operator can get up and running as quickly as possible. It minimizes the technical knowledge required to run a decentralized exchange this way.
Wow.
It's also incredibly fast because it's layer 1, right? That means that all the transactions, the order book, basically management, any transaction that takes place, it's incredibly fast. It's running at the same speed as our blockchain because our masters are directly handling those transactions, direct, right? All of the decentralized exchanges will be sharing a common liquidity pool. So one decentralized exchange may have a user who wants to buy a token, and on another exchange, they may want to sell the same token, right? You have different customers, different exchanges, but they share the same liquidity pool, the same order book, essentially, right? And so that's going to help with the liquidity. It's going to be really fast, so it'll be as close to a centralized exchange experience as we can get. And it's quick to set up and to launch. And so this has been a big part of our DeFi strategy since launching into our main, or since even before launching into our mainnet post our ICO. We saw that the decentralized nature of financial transactions made sense. So rather than having it all dumped onto a centralized server, centralized system, it goes wallet to wallet now, right? So you place an order, a bid, I place an ask, and when they're matched, they just get sent wallet to wallet within a couple of seconds. So it's a pretty cool experience. We're in testnet, like I mentioned, we have our DEX running, one of our decentralized exchanges running on that testnet. So when we come into May, end of April, May, TomoX protocol will be launched, so anyone can launch their own decentralized exchange. Tomochain is going to be launching its own decentralized exchange called TomoDex. We're also going to be adding additional things. So for one, we want to make sure that the DEX can operate not just with Tomochain tokens, but with other relevant tokens, right? So I had mentioned wrap tokens earlier. We're going to be launching something called Tomo Bridge. Tomo Bridge essentially is just a gateway that allows for the issuance of wrap tokens. You deposit, say, Bitcoin, and what will be output are wrapped Bitcoin within the Tomochain ecosystem. So with TomoP, you can set it privately, or with TomoX, you can choose to, transact, or you can buy or sell your Bitcoin for Tomochain or other tokens on a TomoX DEX. So we'll be launching Tomo Bridge alongside that. So that we'll have BTC, ETH, USDT, Tomo as pairs. And then we'll be kind of testing to see how things are going on that front, and then we'll expand to include other tokens based on what we're seeing. In addition, we are looking to build a borrowing and lending platform, again purely decentralized, and so that will be integrated into Tomo into TomoX, starting off with our Tomochain's own DEX, TomoDex. So it'll allow for anyone to borrow and lend. So you can put up collateral, and or you can either lend it out for a percentage, whatever percentage you're looking for that's matched up, and the person's borrowing will put down collateral, and it is all handled through smart contracts. So again, no custody, no single parties holding that. It's purely decentralized, way of doing it. And again, this is kind of the way we see things moving forward. We want things to be decentralized. We want things to be easy. So even the transactions that take place on these DEXs, the fee that's paid, it's done in the token itself. So you have to hold Tomo in order to do that transaction at all. And that's the whole point. I think is we're trying to showcase what can be done. April, May, June, a lot of stuff is coming out. We keep building. That's the point. Whether the market's doing great, it's not doing great. Like I said, we were born into a bear market. So these shocks, we've been pretty prepared for it. And so we continue operating as we normally need to. We adjust a little bit, adapt a little bit. But those products are coming out. Now it's just a matter of, so now the decision is more about what's the right timing with respect to the market, right? When do you start to really scream about this cool new product that you're launching, right? That's more of a marketing function. Right now, announcements of any sort, really won't make much of a difference because everyone's just concerned about their own health and safety, which is where we should, where we should be thinking. And obviously the markets aren't doing very well as well. So, I mean, there's no real point in launching a product into a market right now. So instead, spend time refining it, spend time building it out, fleshing it out, and putting together hopefully an even better marketing strategy around each of these products, protocols that we'll be launching. So yeah, it's been great on that front. Nothing has slowed down. I've been, reading about other projects that are right now trying to raise funds, or, and some have been successful, some have not at this moment because maybe they're running out. I think that this is, you have to be smart in maintaining your treasury. You have to think about the roadmap of the next few years, and you have to look at how do you run your blockchain company as a business, not as a research firm looking for grants. You need to find sources of revenue. And, we have that. This year, we're expecting to hit break even because of that. And that's the whole point, is you can't just rely on that treasury reserve and hoping that the price will appreciate to maintain longevity for you. It's not the way in which you should think about businesses, in my opinion, or running a business, because it is a business at the end of the day. So that's why we can continue building. And we also are hiring. We hired 3 new people over the last month. And that includes during this whole epidemic. I have a new guy on my team, and he's been, we've been planning to hire him for a while. And it was just because of travel restrictions, he wasn't able to come to the Hanoi office for a while. But we have 3 new people already we've hired. And so we're still spending in the right way. We're still building. Nothing's changed for Tomochain.
Some really interesting things you've got in the pipeline. To privacy at the moment, decentralized exchange, and in lending as well. So I've seen some really interesting things coming up in 2020. So thank you so much for your time, Kyn. I'd just like to say to the viewers, if you've liked our interview, please thumbs up and share this video far and wide. Just a disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. Make sure do your own due diligence, research. I'm not saying for you to go and invest in Tomochain. Make that decision up for yourselves, guys. So, Kyn, thank you so much for your time again, and you have a wonderful day.
Hey, thank you very much as well. Again, appreciate you inviting me onto your show. And yeah, let's look forward to 2020. I think hopefully things will get better for us and for everybody in the space.
Yeah, hopefully, we hope everyone, keeps safe, and we hope
just stay safe.
The world, the world does, everyone pulls through in these times, these difficult times. So yeah, keep safe, Kyn, in India, and look after yourself, hey, and your family.
Will do. You too, my friend. You too, my friend.
Okay, see you later, mate. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.